Gentlemen, it's good to be with you tonight and to bring what I believe is the most important lesson in this series. Hope is not a strategy for success. If we're going to be successful in the local church at implementing an evangelistic effort, we have got to organize it. We have got to have vision. We've got to look out into the future and find out how to get to the goal. And so tonight we're going to present to you 10 steps that a church can take to begin to place the principles that we have presented in this seminar together, and to make an actionable plan that you can make operational, you can execute it. So we call it the 10-step framework. It was Winston Churchill who stood before the Commons of Great Britain during the immediate days prior to the World War II, the U.S. entering the war. Chamberlain had made a mess of the war effort. And he gave a great speech before the Commons, and he said, "He who fails to plan is planning to fail." And his words resonated with the chamber, and they eventually made him prime minister, and because he was a planner. And he knew that Great Britain had no chance to survive the war if they did not begin to strategically make the plans in order to have success. Well, in the Church of Christ, if we're shooting from the hip, if we're just continuing the same old, if we're continuing the same old path that we've been traveling the last 20 and 30 years, we're going to get the same results. So what we want to do tonight is put forth a plan, a strategy that you can carry out at the local level. So we're going to begin tonight by giving in these, you can find this if you turn your Evangelism Simplified Guidebook to page 111. You're going to find the 10 steps, and you're going to find it laid out strategically. So we're going to put the X's and O's on the board. We're going to take it to the locker room tonight. We're going to sit in the locker room, and we're going to look at the strategy for achieving victory. Victory in the local community, victory in your personal life, more importantly, victory in the Church of Christ. Number one, if you're going to achieve victory in a war front, in a war effort, as we're going to confront the devil, and we're going to take on the sinner, and we're going to present them the saving power of Jesus Christ, we must have the tools to do the job. You don't send a soldier into battle without a rifle. You don't send a carpenter to a house without a hammer. You don't put a mechanic into the shop without a wrench. You don't put Christians on the battlefield if they don't have the tools in order to achieve victory. And so the most basic level, we have to have Bibles. We have to have Bibles that are designed for Bible studies. We're not talking about $150 apologetic press Bibles. We're talking about Bibles that have good print size. They're designed to hand out. They're made for Bible studies. You need Bibles at the most basic level. You need to have a Bible study tool to do a Bible study, like Back to the Bible. Most Christians just cannot wave their finger and come up with a Bible study tool. They must have something in their hand. Brethren, if you do not place a simple scriptural successful method into the hands of soldiers in order to achieve a study, they're not going to do it. They've not been to preaching school. They've not been to university. They don't have the experience. That's why something like Back to the Bible is so important. Putting something in their hand like Doesn't Matter, another lure, where if they're not biting, if the fish aren't biting, you're not going to sit out there all day with the same lure. Most of us, when we go fishing, if we don't have a bite within an hour, maybe less than that, we're going to change lures. We're going to find something that works. Doesn't Matter is another study method based on the same model of Back to the Bible. It's the one study method. You're going to throw out Believe the Bible. We're going to train you how to use it. How do you use a study tool for people who don't believe in God? They don't believe in the Bible. They don't believe in Christ. So we're going to make sure that you have the tools to achieve success with every person. The believer, the unchurched, the atheist, the one that's maybe an agnosticism. We're going to make sure that you have the right tools. We're going to make sure the church is equipped with tools to bring people. We call those bringers. And so the Church of Christ has got to have the tools to help bring in contacts. So whether that's benevolent materials, whether or not that's cards to send out, whether or not that's door hangers to use when you go door to door, where there's various food pantry items, but we're going to make sure we have the equipment. Then for teachers, training material, things to take a teacher to help equip them to become a better teacher, to equip them to reach sinners. So when you're going to be an instructor and you're going to be focusing on the actual teaching process, we want to make sure we train you how to do that. New converts need materials. We want to make sure that new converts have the right resources, the right tools and books, and we're going to make sure you're equipped. So all these are necessary. If you don't have this, you can't do anything else. So the most fundamental level, you must have, if you went to work and they didn't supply you with the tools to be successful, you couldn't achieve the goal. And so when we come to a church building, we're not without the things that we need. We have salt shakers, we have pepper shakers, we have tables, we have chairs, we have tablecloths, coffee pots, coffee filters, coffee grinds, coffee makers. We have ovens and refrigerators. We have everything we need to open a soup kitchen. And we have laminators and scissors and glue, and we have poster board and crayons and colors and map pencils, and we have toddler chairs and middle school chairs and toddler tables, and we have everything we need to open a school. I want to know, do we have in the local Church of Christ the tools to evangelize our local community? Why is it that we have everything else we need in the church building, but the very thing upon which the Lord established us, number two? I want to know where it's at. Why do we keep it in a locked closet? Why do we keep it in the preacher's office? Why do we keep it in a place where no one has access to it? Brethren, take the materials and put them out there where people can get it. If people do not have access to the evangelistic materials to be successful, they can't do it. They're not going to the library. They're not going to go down to Alan's office. They're not going to the elder's office. They're not going to dig through it. You guys have done a remarkable job already making some of these tools available. It's great to see the track racks and the DVD racks, and I saw some graphics that you had hanging in a magazine rack. But we need to make sure that we have offensive tools, like back to the Bible, believe the Bible, open Bible study, whatever it is you want to use, but we have to have access to it. Put it out there where they can't miss it. Don't stick it in a coat closet. Put it out there where they'd have to trip over it to get out of the church building. Put out there the bookmarks, the door hangers. Make sure people know what it's for. Train them how to use it. Make sure they have access to it. I was at a church several years ago, and the preacher finished the seminar. He was excited. The church got the materials, and he got his table out there, and he put a tablecloth on it, and he set the materials out there, and he gave me a phone call about a few days later, and he said, "Hey, Rob, I want you to know what just happened." He said, "I took all those materials we got. I put them out in the foyer, just like you said." He said, "And I came back the next day and they were all gone." I said, "Preacher, that's exciting. The members are hungry." He said, "Oh, no, Rob." He said, that's not what happened. And he said, "So I put some more materials out." And he said, I went back out the next day and they were gone again. And I said, "Brother, where are the materials going?" He said, "Well, I thought I had a hunch." He said, "I called one of the elders." And I said, "Brother," he said, "I've been putting the evangelism materials out in our foyer." He said, "I'd like to know where they're going." He said, "Well, about that." He said, when we built this $3 million facility, remember, we took suggestions as to what goes in the foyer. And we decided if it wasn't on the list, it didn't go in the foyer. The ladies saw that gaudy table with all those books out there, how it didn't match the decor. And we decided we would move it to something more discreet, like the coat closet. So if you'll go into the coat closet, you'll find all the materials. He said, at that point, I was about to lose it. He said, "But I decided they're the elders. If they want the evangelism materials in the coat closet, that's where we'll keep them." So I got into the pulpit on Sunday night and I preached on evangelism materials in the coat closet. He said, and when I was finished, he says, I stood by the coat closet and I waited for the brethren to walk into the closet and pick them up. Guess how many brethren picked up the materials? None. Brethren, if we're at a point in time in the Church of Christ where we cannot put evangelism materials in our foyers because it doesn't match the decor, may I suggest to everyone tonight, we sell our buildings and go home. We are the Church of Christ. Our mission is to take the gospel of Jesus Christ, to equip the saints, go into the community, and teach the gospel of Christ. Shame on that church. That should have never happened. I thought that surely was a unique situation. I'd never hear it of again. That year I had that told to me 3 times. 3 times I had preachers tell me they couldn't put the materials in the foyer because it upset people. Brethren, if it upsets people to put evangelism materials in the foyer, we have a bigger problem. This ought to be the hallmark, the focal point. It ought to be the most important thing we're doing. Number 3, we got to train people how to use the materials. If they don't know how to use them, they're worthless. Brethren, if people do not know how to take the materials and do something with them, what good do they do? A DeWalt hammer into the hands of a skilled carpenter is an incredible tool. A DeWalt hammer into my hands is a deadly weapon. It's all about what you're trained to do. If you're not trained to use it, it doesn't do you any good. I bet everyone in this auditorium, when you go to work, and those of you who work with high tech and very expensive equipment, have gone to training schools, they probably have flown you out to who knows where, paid for your hotel, your airfare, and paid for all your training, that maybe they've even shipped you to Japan or somewhere else to learn how to do it, because they want to make sure you know how to use the training, the tools that they have invested millions of dollars in. They want to make sure you're trained. We need to train our church members how to use the equipment. All right, we've got to make sure that every member, not just a preacher, not just the elders, not just a few deacons, every member of the church of Christ must be trained how to do it. I was with the Ironton Church of Christ a couple of years ago. Cliff Goodwin preaching the Gospel Broadcasting Network. That's our Sunday premiere show. Replaced James Watkins. And he said, come train us. Cliff is a good friend. Cliff is a soul winner. And so I went into the church and we trained him how to use back to the Bible. And Cliff told me a couple months later, Rob, man, we've had like 8 or 9 baptisms. It's been great. I said, well, Cliff, I knew you guys would have this success. He said, no, Rob, it's not been me. He said, those widow ladies that we taught how to use back to the Bible, they started doing Bible studies with their neighbor, with their friends. Rob, my daughter's doing Bible study with her friends at Cracker Barrel. He said, Rob, we're baptizing people. It's not me. I haven't done one. Those are the best baptisms Alan Judd will have at this church. It's the ones that you call him and you say, I've studied with somebody and I need your help because I don't know how to baptize somebody. That's the best news a preacher can get. It's when the members are out there in the field and they're evangelizing. If you'll train your members how to do a Bible study, they just might do it. But I promise, if you don't train them, they won't do it. If you do not give them the confidence, if you don't show them how to do it, if you don't take them by the hand and help them open their Bibles, underline the passage, circle the answer, help them fill in the blank in the book, they're not going to do it. And by the way, they're not coming on Monday night for a special evangelism class. They're not coming. You got to do it on Sunday morning when everybody's at church. Brethren, if you cannot train soul winners on Sunday morning, what can you do? It's the most important thing we should be doing. There's nothing that's more important than that. And so we don't need to have a special Monday night for the masters when you got 20 people in the church show up. We're going to train every single church member you've got. Every soldier in the army is going to learn how to fire their rifle. Now, they may not be a marksman. You might not put them in the front line. You might not want to put them in the infantry. Maybe you put them in the kitchen. But they need to know how to fire their rifle. Everybody needs to go to basic training. We need basic training for the church. Number 4, you got to put together an atmosphere of evangelism in your church that is going to promote soul winning. In other words, everything funnels into soul winning. It doesn't matter if it's prime timers. It doesn't matter if it's the youth group. It doesn't matter if it's trunk or trick or trunk or whatever you call it. It doesn't matter if it's Bible camp, vacation Bible school, pew packer, graduation banquet. Brethren, everything becomes soul winning. Jesus said, I've come to seek and save the lost. Everything we do in the church of Christ ought to be about souls. Friends, I've got news for you tonight. If what you're doing in the local church isn't about saving souls, shut it down. Because we are not the Lions Club. We are not the Rotary Club. We're not Salvation Army. Brethren, we're not the Goodwill. The Church of Christ is a potent or should be soul-saving body. Everything we do is about reaching the lost. And I can't think of a better way to do it than to take every program we've got and to re-engineer it where it centers and funnels through reaching the lost. Think about it. Place a funnel into everything you do, and let's think about winning souls. So let's take Bible camp, for example. Let's just suppose We went to Bible camp next year, and we gave every camper back to the Bible. And we had our teachers train all of our young people how to do Bible studies. You think that might help? You know, how long have we been going to Bible camps and we talk about, lessons from Mount Gerizim, picnics with Christ, apologetics every single year? Why don't we train them how to be soul winners? We've got to think outside the box. We've got to start thinking ahead. We've got to train the next generation how to reach people. And in fact, you might just find that there are young people that you're evangelizing at that Bible camp, and instead of some emotional response, they have an intellectual response because they're studying the Word of God, and they're learning, and they're being focused on evangelism. You got to think and promote evangelism. Let me talk about benevolence for just a minute. Benevolence is a powerful evangelistic tool, and when done properly, it yields results. And so just think if you could put a benevolent ministry together in this church that funneled everything through evangelism. And I'm going to give you something very quickly that we've been teaching the last year and a half that's very effective. Let's just suppose Alan's sitting in his office and the phone rings and he picks it up and says, hello. And the person says, is this the Church of Christ? And he said, yes. Is this the preacher? Yes. Name's Alan Judd. Do you help people? Yes, we help people. He said, well, do you care about people? We care about people. I'm hungry. I need some food. We'd be glad to get you food. I need my light bill paid. Be glad to help you with your light bill. Need my mortgage. Be glad to help you with your mortgage. I never say no. Never. Well, when can you help me with my mortgage? When can you help me with the food? We help people every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, and we can't wait to see you. And we're going to have people just waiting for you. When you walk in the door, we're going to meet you, greet you, and guess what we're going to do? To every person who comes to church looking for help, we're going to take them to a little room. We're going to have trained soul winners sit down with them, and we're going to do a Bible study with every person who comes for help. We're going to funnel them into a Bible study. We're going to make sure that they know that help comes on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, Wednesday at 7 o'clock. So you're going to have somebody come. They're looking for help. You sit down and do a Bible study with them. And when you're finished, the elders can decide how much and if they help them or how much they help them. But we're going to do Bible studies. Brethren, you can't solve world poverty here at Crossville. You know, the mission of the church is to be benevolent. Why? Why did Jesus feed the 4,000? Why did he feed the 5,000? Why did Peter and James heal the lame man and heal him? Why did Jesus do good? Because he wanted to reach their souls. And you can't reach a soul on an empty stomach. And so when people begin to realize that you're genuine, you care about them, it opens their heart, it gives you opportunities for Bible studies. Jesus said the poor will always be with you. You can't solve even poverty in Crossville. But what you can is demonstrate to people in this city that you care about them. And when they come into this church, you can study the Word of God and you can help them. And yes, are some going to come just because of the loaves and fishes? Absolutely. There's no doubt they did it in the time of Christ. But when they came to Jesus, he preached. When they came to Peter and James, they taught. And so when they come here, they're not only going to get a sack full of food, they're going to get lesson 1 of Back to the Bible. They may not come back, but they're going to get some Bible teaching. That's how you promote an evangelistic atmosphere. I don't have time to break this down. I'll break it down later with your elders, but everything you do is about soul winning. And so whether or not it's a sack of groceries or help with a light bill or whatever it is you guys are going to do to help benevolence, whether it be a Bible camp, a vacation Bible school, when you have sinners, what event in your church annually, Alan, brings in more sinners than vacation Bible school? If there is one event that brings in the community in mass, it's vacation Bible school. Are you ready to do Bible studies when they come? You know, when we had a vacation Bible school in 2020, the elders had said, Rob, we're going to do VBS. I know we're in the midst of a pandemic, but we're doing it anyway. And I said, well, I'm all for it because it's going to give me an opportunity to do a Bible study. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, I always do Bible studies doing VBS. And this is, and they said, all right, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to mitigate. We're going to sanitize, we're going to spread out, but we're going to do it. So we did. And we had visitors, believe it or not, during COVID. We're in June, end of June. They're coming, right? And so we're the only Church of Christ open. We're the only church open. And so we've got people sitting in the pew. So I walk up to this couple. I said, hey, my name's Rob. What's your name? He says, name's Nick. And I said, Nick, why are you here? He said, well, my son Cole needed we don't have any church to go to. And y'all the only VBS going on. And I said, well, man, I appreciate you as a father looking out for the spiritual training of your son. I think that's important. He says, it is. I said, Nick, where's your wife? He said, my wife's name's Darby. Darby. Hey, Nick, have we been sending cards to Darby? He said, you sure have. We got 40 or 50 of them last week. He said, she had the liver transplant. I know about you guys in the community. He said, that's right. He said, and you guys, you sent us a VBS invitation. You had these cards being sent. That's why I'm here. My wife didn't feel well tonight. Do you know what we did 3 weeks later? Baptized both of them. Now, why did we do that? Because we made VBS evangelistic. You see, we got to make everything we do in a church evangelistic. We got to look for them. We got to. I took him out to eat that week. I said, Nick, I said, Nick, do you like steak? He said, love it. I said, can I take you and your wife out for steak? He said, wow. He said, yes, I would never turn down a steak. What kind of man turns down a steak? And I said, yes. I said, let's go. I said, there was one steakhouse open. It was Calhoun Steakhouse. I said, let's go. We went to the steakhouse. His wife came, my wife. We sat down around the table. And I said, Darby, what do you think about the Church of Christ? What do you think she said? After she's gotten 50 cards. What do you think she said about the Church of Christ? That's a nice group of people over there. I said, do you know anything about the church? I don't know much. I just so happen to have these booklets right here. I said, I know how we can learn more. And we did Bible studies that week during COVID. Baptized them both. This is benevolence, right? In local churches, I don't know what kind of benevolent work you do here, but I know it's not hard to answer the phone and say, yes, 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 9 o'clock Sunday morning. Is that hard? You don't have to have a benevolent building. You don't have to have a food box. You don't have to have a coat drive to do that. I mean, how hard is it to say, yes, we do benevolence every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock and we can't wait to see you. That works. That's field tested. That's laboratory tested right there. So whatever it is you do, I don't know what kind of benevolence you do here, but it's got to be evangelistic or we don't do it. All right, this is Kim. She called the church, got house to house, and she said, I see that you guys offer to help people. And the secretary says, we do. When do you help? Every Sunday morning at 9:30. Well, I don't have a card. No worries. We'll be glad to come get you. Okay, well, my apartment is on C Street, and we went to pick her up, and we took Kim that afternoon to the Dollar General. She said she needed some things, and we told her we'd pick up whatever she needed. I said, Kim, what is it you need? Need a little food. No worries. Put it in the basket. She's already gone through worship and Bible study. And Kim looked over at me. I keep falling in my shower. Just moved into this apartment and it's slippery. Do you mind? Can you mind if you get me a shower mat? And I said, sure. Let's go get the shower mat. Got the shower mat, and went into her apartment. It was mold infested. I mean, it was terrible. I've never seen living conditions in this country like that. It was terrible. And Kim, I said, who you written this from? Oh, it's Housing Authority. I said, we're going to solve this real quickly. So we called up to the Housing Authority and said, I suggest we get this cleaned up very quickly. They actually moved her into a brand new facility. And she called me and said, Rob, they got a brand new facility waiting for me. My problem is I can't move my back. I said, Kim, you don't have to worry about that. We had 5 men out there on Saturday with trailers, 6 of us moving her. And we moved her to the new facility. I'm sitting there unloading, and we're sitting in her living room. We even got her a new lamp. She didn't even have a lamp. We had it. Oh, this is wonderful, Rob. I can't believe you guys don't even know me. You've done all this for me. I said, well, Kim, we're glad. Hey, by the way, Kim, would you like to know more about the Church of Christ? What do you think she said? No, we don't like you. Don't want to know anything about you. No, she said, no, I'd like to know more. I said, you know a lot about, not a lot. I just so happen to have these little booklets right here. I said, where'd they come from? Nicole grabbed the Bibles. What do you think she did in 3 weeks? This is the most important step you're going to take in all 10 steps. In fact, much of the time that we spend over the next year, with our relationship and building and training will be right here. Because if you don't have this, you don't have anything. Brethren, if you're a company and you don't have customers, you're bankrupt. If you sell signs and billboards and don't have customers, you go bankrupt. If you're a banker and an accountant and have no accounts, you go bankrupt. If you sell insurance and you don't have any customers, you go bankrupt. Whatever it is you do and you don't have customers, you're finished. If a church doesn't have people, they're done. How do you get contacts? So let's talk about it. Number one, house to house, heart to heart. It's a contact creator. I don't know if you've received Reaching the Lost. Anybody receive that this morning? Did you read it? Did you see several of the churches got contacts from house to house, heart to heart? I love it because I don't have to. You didn't hear it from me. You heard it from them. And they were baptized. Do you see the baptisms? Did you see what happens when people do this and they do it correctly? And so there are things you can do to enhance the effectiveness of house to house, heart to heart. Let me give you just one real quick one. I didn't look at your edition carefully, but let's put this scenario together. It's 7 o'clock. I've gotten home from a long day's work. My marriage is falling apart. I feel empty inside. I have no answers. I don't know where to turn. I look over to the right, and there's this publication, House to House, Heart to Heart, Crossville Church of Christ. Man, don't I need something. I don't know what it is, but maybe this church can help me. So you pick it up, you look at the phone number, and you call it. Where does it ring? Where does it ring, Alan? The office. Who's there? Nobody. Nobody. And so one of the things we'll suggest that you do is put the phone number of someone that you can connect with 24/7. Whether that's an elder or a preacher, you put the phone number on there. In other words, brethren, you got to think like the community thinks. They're not 8 to 5 people. They're not looking at house to house from 8 to 5. They're working. And so when they get home from work and they pick this up and I'm going to call and I'm going to find out more about this church. Or maybe it's during the middle of the afternoon, but Alan's out making a hospital visit and the secretary's not in the office and they call. How many times do you think they're going to call? Maybe more than once, I don't know. But I would suggest, so those are little things. We're going to do this together. I'm going to give you a lot of suggestions about how to make this more potent. But one suggestion would be put contact information that's 24/7. And so we're going to look at how do you make this potent? How do you make this more efficient? And so in the middle of house to house, you're going to find in the backside, of course, there's a room for advertisement and promotion. One of the most disheartening things to us at house to house is that about 2/3 of our congregations put nothing on the back. They don't advertise anything. We have to put filler in there. They don't promote anything they do. They don't promote their vacation Bible school. They don't promote their graduation banquet, their trick or trunk. Those are things that bring people. They don't promote their special apologetics pressed Christian Science seminar. We're having to put stuff in there for them. But yet it goes right to the mailbox of everyone. Let me go back to this picture right here. Let me tell you what happened. We got back from a seminar. Nicole and the kids went up to visit her parents up in White House, Tennessee, north of Nashville. And I'm down in Jacksonville. And Sunday comes, and I walk into the church building, and I sat down. And right after we started, I noticed this lady kind of snuck in the back, and she sat on the left-hand side of the auditorium. And I noticed she didn't recognize her. And when Alan was finished preaching, he started to walk down the aisle. I walked with him. I said, "Alan, who is that?" He said, "I don't know, Rob." He said, "I think she's visiting." I said, "Good." So I walked in behind her, and I kind of got it right behind her. So the closing prayer, she turned around, there I was. And I said, "Ma'am, are you visiting this morning?" She said, "Yes." "My name's Ellen." I said, "Well, my name's Rob. I'm one of the members here. Well, nice to meet you, Rob." And I said, may I ask, ma'am, did you enjoy the service?" She said, "I sure did." I said, "May I ask why you enjoyed the service?" She said, "Well, lots of Bible. I like the Bible." I said, "I do too." And she said, "Your preacher likes to quote the Bible." I said, "He sure does." And I said, "Ellen, are you by yourself today?" She said, "Well, I wasn't going to be. My husband, Perry, was coming this morning, but he got sick." And I said, "I'm sorry to hear that." I said, "Boy, I'd like to meet your husband sometime." He said, "Well, you know what? Do you guys have an evening service?" I said, "We sure do, 6 o'clock. She said, "Well, I think if he's feeling better, we'll come back for that." I said, "Wonderful." Well, I went back home and I called Nicole. I said, "Honey, I know you were thinking about staying an extra day. Can you come home?" I said, "I got a prospect and I need you." And she said, "All right." She got in the car. She drove back down home. we got together Sunday night. Sure enough, she brings Perry. He's sitting with her, and I, after services, walked up and I said, "Hey, Ellen, this is my wife, Nicole." And she went, "Nice to meet you." "Well, this is my husband, Perry." I said, "Perry, nice to meet you." We talked for a few minutes, "And where do you guys live?" "Oh, just down the road." I said, "Well, great. And I said, "Hey, you guys like to eat?" We just so happen to have this custom. We take visitors out to eat. "What do you guys like? What's your favorite restaurant?" Perry said, "Well, I like Athena's." I said, "Wow." I said, "That is good stuff." I said, "Can I take you to Athena's tonight?" He said, He said, "My stomach's not feeling the best." He said, "Can I take a rain check for next Sunday?" I said, "Sure can." I said, "Perry, you know how busy that place is. I'll make reservations for 6 of us." He said, "All right." So I made reservations. Next Sunday they came, and we went over to Athena's, and we sat down around the table. And brethren, I could care less about the lasagna. I have one mission. I want a Bible study. I will get it. It's just a matter of time. I'm looking for the sweet spot. So I said, "Perry," I said, "what do you think about NFL football?" I said, "Don't watch it anymore." I said, "Me neither." I said, "What do you think about baseball?" I said, "They're kind of on the edge, Rob." I said, "I think they are." I said, "What do you think about football, like a college football?" I said, "Oh, I love college." Nick said, "Go Alabama." "Go Alabama." I said, "Yes, Nick Saban's a great brethren. If I have to like Alabama to get a Bible study, I'll like Alabama. I have one mission. I want a Bible study. And whatever it takes for me to relate to that man is what I'm going to do." I said, "You know what? Nick Saban's a good coach. I'll have to admit. I'm not an Alabama fan, but he's good." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Perry," I said, "you guys have had a terrible year." He said, "Yeah, we didn't make the championship." I said, "Yeah, it's Clemson and LSU this year, isn't it?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Perry," I said, "even when my team doesn't make it," my team never makes it, poor Tennessee. And I said, "Even when my team doesn't make it, I love to watch the championship game. Do you always watch it?" He says, "Yeah, I never miss it." I just happen to have this idea. "Honey," I said, "Perry, do you realize tomorrow Nicole is putting together a football party?" Ouch, what was that? That was Nicole kicking me under the table. She wasn't doing that. And why do you keep doing that to me? And we're going to have pigs in the blanket, sausage balls, and chips and dip. And Perry, you're invited to come. We got this big screen TV. And I said, "We'll watch the football game together. What do you think?" He said, "Wow, I'd like to do that. Ellen, can we come to their house?" I don't see why not. I have one mission. All I want is a Bible study. I said, in my house, we get to the halftime. LSU was blowing out Clemson. And I looked over at Perry and I said, "Perry, can we talk for a few minutes?" He said, "Sure." I turned it down. "Perry and Ellen, there are a dozen churches in Jacksonville, Alabama. I just have to ask, why in the world did y'all come to the Jacksonville Church of Christ?" She said, she said, "Rob, 21 years ago, you guys sent us house to house, heart to heart. You send it every month." She said, "That publication is full of Bible." She said, "Our church stopped following the Bible." She said, "They changed the rules on marriage." She says, "And it makes us sick." And she said, "We're looking for a church that follows the Bible." I said, "Do you know anything about the Church of Christ?" "Well, not a lot. I have one distant relative. I just so happen to have these little booklets right here." And I said, "Would you like to know more about it?" And guess what they did 3 weeks later? Brother, we baptized 17 people this year doing this. And this is not hard. You have them in your home, you have a meal, you get to know them, and you do what's called a Bible study. You don't talk to them about the Lord. That's not going to win their soul. We don't have a good chat. Chatting isn't going to win their soul. We don't, what's the word now we like to use? Share our faith. That's not going to work either. All right? How do you convert people? You do a Bible study with people. That's how they're converted. It doesn't matter if they're Generation Z, X, Y, or P. That's how people are converted. All right, so we're going to make sure we promote our local events. We're going to think outside the box. What can we do at Crossville to bring in the masses? What would happen if you promoted your trunk or treat, and you put this in the mailboxes of a couple thousand people, and you say, "Come on Friday night, we're going to have a hayride." Do y'all do hayrides in Crossville? Is it legal to do a hayride in Crossville? I don't know. You could probably get away with it. And I don't think you can have a bonfire out here, but you're going to do something, right? And you're going to say, "Come to Crossville." Do you think people would come if you advertised that for free candy? When a Reese cup is $3, you think they come? Well, you better believe they're going to come. Brethren, you got to put things in there to bring people. All right? special offers inside, like a free 10 Commandment poster. They're gonna write you and say, I want the free 10 Commandment poster, or I want the free marriage material that y'all advertise. Y'all said you got some marriage material and you'll give it to us. Absolutely. And I went to the church, the elders. I said, what's your policy here for fulfilling requests? They said, we mail it. And I said, don't do it. And they said, why? I said, I want to try something. When I was at Willette, I mailed it. Doesn't work very good. They said, what do you want to do, Rob? I said, I want to hand deliver every request. I said, so the next time we get a request, would you just put it in my box and I'll take care of it? And they said, all right. So I got a call from Deborah Rice. She's the secretary. Rob, got a request for some marriage material. I said, all right. I said, put it in my box. Well, Rob, we've never done that before. I said, that's why we're not baptizing. I said, put it in my box. I said, we're not going to keep doing the same thing that doesn't produce. We're going to do something different. And I said, put it in my box. And she did. And Nicole and I went down to the office, grabbed the address, grabbed the marriage material, and we drove down looking for Brenda Glaze. We finally found Brenda's house. Always bring a woman. Gentlemen, never go to the house by yourself. First of all, it's not a good ethical practice. You never know what's going to be behind the other door. And so always bring a child or a woman. For the second reason, it's going to make you more effective because you're scary. I wouldn't open the door for you. You're ugly. But I'd open it for maybe your wife, or your son or your daughter, because it's more appealing. And so you're going to bring a son, a daughter, bring your wife with you. Knock on the door. She opens it up. Oh, hi, ma'am. And Nicole's smiling at her, and I kind of move in. My name is Rob, and my wife, Nicole. Oh, yes. And we're from House to House, Heart to Heart. Oh, yes, that publication. I said, yes, ma'am. You requested some marriage material. Oh, yes, I did. Ma'am, have you just gotten married? Sure have. Been married about a month. I said, well, congratulations, Brenda. Oh, thank you. And I said, Brenda, well, we thought we'd just deliver the materials in person. She said, well, you could have mailed them. I said, well, then I couldn't meet you. Well, that's right. I said, Brenda, how long have you lived in Jacksonville? Well, when we got married, we moved here, came down from Oxford, Alabama. I said, great. And I said, how'd you like it? Well, don't know a lot of people. But we like it so far. And Daniel's working down here. And she said, ma'am, sir, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. She says, do you know anything about the Bible? I said, oh, just a little bit. She says, good, because my husband knows nothing about the Bible. Daniel, get up. That man has been on the couch ever since he came home from work. I don't know what he does all day. Get up, Daniel. Daniel, we have guests. Come here, Daniel. He's doing this, and I'm looking, this is strange, He comes over here. I want to introduce you to Rob and Nicole, and we're going to teach you the Bible. Brethren, you could have blown me over with a toothpick. You could have pushed me over. I was stunned. I said, ma'am, when would you like to begin? She says, how about tomorrow? I said, my wife will make you some homemade chocolate chip cookies and we'll get started. Always eat. And so we showed up together. We had our chocolate chip cookies. We pulled out back to the Bible and we did lesson 1. What do you think happened 3 weeks later? We baptized. And we baptized, and we baptized, and we baptized again and again and again. 7 baptisms. Every friend and every family member they had was baptized. Now, what would have happened if I mailed it? Nothing. We've got to target sinners. You never hit a target you don't aim for. So I was at Todd Clippard's last year. Jared and I... He said, come up a day early, boys, and go hunting with me. I said, hey, boy, you don't have to ask me twice. Todd had a lot of land out there in Alabama. So we got up in the tree stands, and he said, now, Rob, they come out every evening. He said, you're going to have a pick of the litter. Jared, every evening they come out. He said, just keep your eyes on that field. He says, when they come, just pick the one you want and shoot. I said, man, this sounds like a lot of fun, So I'm sitting there, and, fellas, the lights, you get to the point where you're starting to think, is it legal? I can't quite see out there. And your scope, you're starting to have a hard time just sighting something in. The black spots are coming up. So all of a sudden, guess what happened? The herd came. All I could see was brown blobs. I could not make out one doe, one buck. But in my scope, I could see brown blobs. So guess what I did? I left them. Because I never hit a target I can't aim at. Brethren, if you want to be successful in evangelism, pick your target. Focus on it. You need targets. You have to develop a target package or you will not be able to achieve the victory. So you need to individually develop targets, and you can do that with house to house, heart to heart. How do I do that? I bet Crossville is a lot bigger than the mailing area that you use for house to house, heart to heart. It'd be very difficult to mail it to everybody. And I bet some of you work with people who you don't mail house to house to. I just know that to be the case. So what happens if you went to work and you went to John, one of your friends, and say, John, I've got this religious publication at my church and I'd like to mail it to you for free. Would that be okay? What happens if you grabbed all your friends? Maybe you live in an area that doesn't get house to house and you just wrote down 20 addresses and you gave them to us. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to individually mail them. We have the ability to do that. We just developed that a year ago, and you can individually target people. It's powerful. Target everybody you know. Make sure every person you know gets house to house in this area. Make sure no one's exempt, because you can go back to them and ask them how you've been getting it. What do you think about it? Tell me if there's an article you got a question on. Tell me what you think. Then you can use it and go door knocking. And you can knock on the door and say, hey, my name's Rob. This is my son, Jared. And we've been mailing this publication to you for a couple years. I'd like to know what you think about it. What do you think about house to house? Yeah, I think I've got that before. Yeah, I think I read that. I said, well, do you like to read religious literature? Yeah. And hey, do you guys have a church home? Well, not since COVID. We've gone to a church time or two. Hey, you know what? I've got some great information about our church. Could I come back another time and give you something? You know what they say 35% of the time? Yes. You notice where my goalpost is? I didn't say, would you like to come to church Sunday? Guess what that's going to get you? 0. Because they don't know you. You're a stranger that just showed up at their door. And so if you showed up at my door as a stranger, invited me to your church, I'm not going. So why do you try to throw a Hail Mary when all you need to do is score a first down? All you need to do is get to come back. And so what I'm going to do is move the goalpost where I can come back. I'm going to say, could I come back sometime and give you some more? Well, yes. That's called a contact. And that's all you need to do to get it. That's what you're trying to do. You need a first down. You see, you need 3 or 4 first downs before you try to get to the end zone. And so what we're going to do is make achievable goals. We're going to move the goalpost where we can hit it. And so we're going to use things like house to house, heart to heart, very effective, 35% return rate. We're going to use new movers. We're going to put together a robust new movers ministry that's very organized and works with all the other evangelistic ministries that we're doing. And we're going to put baskets together, and we're going to go to these families that just moved into the community and knock on their door and say something like this. Hey, my name's Rob, my wife Nicole, welcome to the community. I understand you guys have moved here recently. Well, yeah, we have. And we're from the Crossville Church of Christ. I'd like to give you this new movers basket full of youth. Well, that's really nice of you guys. And how long have you guys lived here? Well, about 2 months. And I said, well, so glad you're here. And have you guys found a church home anywhere here in Crossville? No, not yet. I said, man, we've got a great church family. There's some information about it inside, and maybe we could come back sometime and talk about it. Oh, well, that's really nice. Yeah, thank you. You get a good, I didn't invite him to church. I didn't ask for a Bible study. Ask for a Bible study. Guess what they're going to do? Shut the door. They don't know you. Why would they do a Bible study with you? I mean, you're just a random person showed up at their door. Do you really think they're not going to do a Bible study with you. Do not try to throw a 50-yard pass when you know the odds of your receiver catching it is almost 0. Don't do that. Make your goals achievable. What are you trying to achieve? A contact. It's step 1. I don't know why we try to go to step 3 and 4 before we go to step 1. Contact is it's a foundational step. All you want is a contact. And so once you make a contact, then you can go to step 2, which I'll talk about a little later. David Shannon said people are most likely to change churches when they move. A couple of generations ago, if a couple or family moved from one city to another city, they usually stayed in that same denomination. He said those days are over. Notice what he said. It doesn't matter to me what church, those days are over. It doesn't matter to me what denomination they were in the last town. Your average person today is willing to look at any church of their neighborhood. This is a powerful opportunity for evangelism. It doesn't matter to me what church they were in the last town. I want them to visit the Church of Christ, because it's going to give us the best opportunity one day to sit down and study the Word of God. They're very good contacts, new movers. What about cards? And I'm not talking about 7 or 8 ladies that get together and send cards. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a robust compassion card cultivating ministry. When you have teams of people, and everybody's on the team. And yes, men, you'll be writing a card too. Young people write cards. Older people write cards. Your wives will write cards. And these cards are going to be sent out strategically. We're going to send 6 or 7 out Monday, 6 or 7 out Tuesday, 6 or 7 out Wednesday. It's going to be very strategic. And we're going to make sure that these contacts are prospected. And when they get these cards, they're going to be overwhelmed with love. They're going to see that people care about them. And so, just like Bettina, we walked into her home. We took her home because this is a contact we receive from house to house. She'd requested a ride to church. And so we took her home, and we walked into her home, and there were cards everywhere. And we've been doing this for several weeks. Hey, Bettina, where did all these cards come from? That's that church you go to, Rob. They're the nicest people I've ever met. Every day I have 5 or 6 cards out in my mailbox. I have just put them all over my apartment. I said, well, that's wonderful. It makes me feel so good. I said, I'm so glad. Bettina, do you know a lot about the Church of Christ? Well, a little bit. Would you like to know more about us? Oh, yes, I just so happen to have these booklets. Brethren, it happens like clockwork. You know why we got this Bible study? Because of you. Because of you. Because Alan doesn't get the Bible study unless you do your job. When you do your job, he can do his job. He loves Bible studies. But he cannot just magically make Bible studies appear. But when you do your job and prospect members of the community like this, how hard is it for us to go in and make a visit? And when they're surrounded by cards, people have been sending flowers and food for weeks. How hard is it to get a Bible study? Not very hard. This is a strategy of success. So can I tell you, I got to tell you about this Bible study, because most unique Bible study I've ever had in my life. I bet I never have another one like this. So I'm in study 3. We're in the red booklet. We're in Mark 16:16. And I got a sneaky suspicion Bettina has some connection with the Church of Christ somewhere in her background. She's doing really well in the studies. We get to Mark 16:16. I said, Bettina, would you read Mark 16:16? She said, oh, yes. My reverend has told me all about that verse. I bet he has. I said, Bettina, I said, tell me what the verse says. She says, yes. It says, he that believes is saved and then baptized. Bettina, would you read Mark 16:16 for me? Sure, Rob, I can do that. He that believes is saved and then baptized. He that believeth not is condemned. Bettina, would you hand me your Bible just for a minute? Sure. King James Version. Rob, is there something wrong with what I'm doing? I said, would you read Mark 16:16 one word at a time? Just like read one word. Yes, I can do that, Rob. He that believes and is baptized shall. He that believes and is baptized shall be saved. That is not what my reverend told me that verse said. Guess where we went when we finished that study? I said, Alan, would you meet me at the church building? I need some help. This lady's in a wheelchair. It's going to take both of us to baptize her. And so after she was drying off, my curiosity got the best of me. I said, Bettina, I have a sneaky suspicion that you were associated in some way with the Church of Christ. Oh, yes. I said, well, tell me about it. She said, well, I'm a Baptist, Rob. Well, I was. Rob, in the last town in Ohatchee, I lived next to the Church of Christ, and I didn't have a car, so I went to that church. I said, oh, I got it now. And so, Bettina, well, how long did you live there? Oh, 7 years. Okay. I said, I bet you didn't go very often. Oh, every Sunday. So, Bettina, so you went to this Church of Christ for 7 years every Sunday, and you sat in their pews every Sunday. Did anybody in that 7-year period of time offer to do a Bible study with you, Bettina? No, never. This is my first Bible study, Rob. 7 years, gentlemen. How can someone visit our pews for 7 years and no one does a Bible study? Shame on us. No wonder we're dying. No wonder churches are shutting their door. If that's the kind of evangelism we're going to do in the Church of Christ, brother, we don't deserve to stay. We must do Bible studies or we're not going to make it. These are called visitor bags. And so you should have a group of ladies that make visitor bags. And these are potent, very potent. And you have a group of families trained in what to do when visitors come. So I'm going to pretend Alan's a visitor and I'm going to be the preacher. I'm going to be actually not the preacher. I'm going to be just a member trained what to do when visitors come. Now, you guys have greeters, door greeter? Okay. Every church has greeters. I love greeters. I am not talking to greeters right now. Greeters don't need to do this. Greeters need to be friendly. Greeters need to say hello. Greeters need to say, nice to see you. Greeters need to greet. We need greeters. The Pew Research Center did a survey of religions, and they asked questions, and here's their question. If you're visiting a church, what's the number one thing you want when you visit? Guess what it was? The number one thing people want when they visit a church? To be welcome, okay? That's not the number one thing they want. What's the number one thing a person wants when they visit a church? They want to sit down. Brethren, let them sit down. Just let them sit in the pews. They do not want the welcome wagon surrounding them. They don't want Gabby Gossip telling them about Brother Bob's problems. They do not want to be embarrassed. Let them sit down. Then your visitation team that is trained and looking for them will walk up and sit with them. So I'm going to sit in front, behind, or next to Alan Judd. Hey, are you visiting this morning? Well, great. Good to meet you. My name is Rob, my wife Nicole, and what's your name? And your wife? Oh, nice to meet you. And are you guys visiting from this community here in Crossville?
Yeah, we just moved here.
We're so glad to have you. And hey, we've got something to give you guys. We'll be right back. We're going to walk over to the designated area where the visitor bags are located. Now that I know he's a local visitor, I'm going to go and take the visitor bag. I'm going to say, hey, we've got this bag our ladies put together. It's got some gift items in it and information about our church. And by the way, we're a card sending church. We're going to want to send you guys some cards thanking you for coming. Would you mind giving me your address? And he's going to give me his address. Guess how many times I've not got the address? 0. When you give them the gift, they always give you the address. So now I've got the address. That's what I wanted. Now I've achieved success because that's the goal of the visitation team is get name and address. I will never let a visitor walk into the church again and leave without their address. If you owned an insurance company and you're the agent and your secretary is sitting over here and you're watching this man walk in your cubicle. And he says, listen, I brought this $1 million house out here. I got 3 boats. I've got 2 UTVs. I've got a gun collection. And he says, I need an insurance. And you know, we're closing early today. And she quotes him all this stuff. And then he leaves. And you walk up to the agent. The secretary said, who was that? Oh, that was Bob. Oh, I forgot to get his name. Where did he live? Well, where was that? Oh, I forgot to write that down. What would you do to that secretary? You would fire her because her job is to get contact information. Brethren, when God places sinners in your pews and you don't get contact information, we need to be fired. We should never allow a visitor to walk into our church building and leave our premises without getting name and address. It's fundamental. They're not going to fill out the visitor card. They don't do that anymore. Our members don't even fill those out. When we make this announcement, and we do it in churches of Christ all over this country, if you're visiting this morning, would you take the visitor card in the pew back in front of you and fill it out and put it in the collection plate? They're not doing it. And by the way, I'm not going to hand Alan Judd the card and say, would you fill that out for me? How many people like to fill things out? You know what I'm going to do? Alan, how do you spell your last name? J-U, is it D, 2 D's, 1 D, all right. And I'm going to fill it out. And then I'm going to provide you some training on this. There's so much you can do with this. One thing you can do is take that card and go give it to your preacher and say, here's the visitor. Another thing you can do is make sure that visitor gets a meal invitation. I mean, there's a lot to do with that visitor. Another thing you can do is that afternoon, the preacher can send them a text and say, my name's Alan Judd, I'm the preacher, thanks for visiting, say nothing more. Just make contact with them. I don't want a form letter from the secretary. Brethren, I want handwritten notes. So we're going to go to our card team. We're going to go to our card team, right? And we're going to say, hey, add this name to the list. And we're going to have a printed list. And it's going to be updated every week. It's called a target list. Nobody goes into battle without a target package. We're going to have a new target package every Sunday, updated and printed for every soldier. And we're going to go after them. We're going to go with cards and meals and visits. We're going to turn the local church into an army of soul winners. And we're going to work together as a team. And we're going to go and evangelize visitors, new movers, door knocks, contacts from house to house. And you know what happens when you do that? That's Keith Ritchie. He's not even been at Jacksonville a year. This was his first Sunday. Let me tell you what happened. So we just got back home. The elder said, Rob, are you going to be home on such and such date? It's the first Sunday of our new preacher. We are hoping you'd be here. And I said, yeah, we're actually going to be here, Brother Robert. He's one of the elders, Robert Whiten. So I walked into the church building. I've been gone 3 weeks, Alan. I walked in and I sat down where you're at. That's about our scriptural pew. And I looked over and about where you're at, right there, there was this family. And I didn't know who they were. And I walked over here to Eric. Eric's supposed to be on the team that greets visitors. He's one of the designated family. Eric, who is that? Ah, visitor. Been coming a couple weeks, Rob. Wonderful. Eric, what's their names? Have we got the contact card? Ooh, Rob, we were waiting for you. My blood pressure went up 10 points. I went to the next person. I said, who is that right there? Oh, visiting, Rob. Have we got the bag? Have we delivered? No, haven't done that yet. Why not? So I just took it upon myself. I grabbed the visitor bag. Honey, come with me. Always bring your wife. So I walked up and said, hey, my name's Rob, my wife Nicole, and your name Cameron, and my wife Lindsay. I said, and are they 2-year-old? And I said, well, it's great to have y'all this morning. Y'all from the community? Sure are. Well, I tell you what, we got this little gift bag we put together for Oh, that's really nice. We've been coming a couple weeks. I'm so glad they're back. I'm surprised they are back. You usually get one shot at this. And so we start talking to them, and they're very friendly. So I'm finished with, I got the contact information. I always get contact information. I got the card. Keith Ritchie, first Sunday. Walked up to Keith Ritchie. Keith. This is the contact card for that. Keith's been through my seminar twice. He's actually graduated from our school. He knows exactly what to do. Here is the contact card, Keith. He said, really? Who is it, right? Everybody's a visitor to Keith. That family right there. Oh, okay. He said, I got it. He walks up to him, introduces his wife, comes back to me and says, we're going out to eat with them. He knows what to do. He went out to eat with them. Guess what he did 3 weeks later? Anybody want to guess? Bible studies and baptism. It's simple, isn't it? All you got, meal invitation, 3 Bible studies, and as he was sitting at the table, I said, what did you ask them to get the study? He said, I asked them if they'd like to know more about the church. See, a lot of us, if we said, would you like to know more? But let me tell you all about it. Now, we're a church that believes, no, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to tell them what you believe. I want you to show them in a Bible study. Conversions happen when you study the Bible. Don't tell them. That violates one of the rules. We learned that rule on Sunday. We don't tell, we show them. Bible studies, they work good. All right, so we're going to invite people out to eat. When we do that, good things happen. Always take them out to eat. Take them to your home. I tell you, this is a hospitable church. I've been to the home of many of your families this week. Sister Tatum knows how to cook Brunswick stew. It's wonderful. And then the Mexican food we had, the Love Days. Did I get the name right? I hope so. It was wonderful. And then today we went over to Howard and Kathy's house, and what a beautiful meal she put together. And so I know hospitality. I know you know how to do it. Get sinners in your homes. When you get a sinner in your home, good things happen. All right, use digital media. I saw the sign. That's wonderful. I'm glad you didn't call it the Crossville Church of Christ Bible Study. You just called it Crossville. It's great. And that gives you contact. So let's keep going here. And community outreach, community events, they're very effective. A community meal. It cannot be hamburgers and hot dogs. They don't come for hamburgers and hot dogs. But they will come for... broiled, how about we do catfish and hush puppies? They'll come, right? How about if you said we're going to have a community meal? Anybody who wants to meet the church, come on Saturday, and you get a couple guys out with fryers and you fry up those hush puppies and catfish. And do you think some sinners might come? We had a whole family come, baptized them. And you know how you baptize people who visit during community meals? Let me show you first what not to do. This is typical. This is what we usually do. My name is Rob. What's your name? I'm Alan. Nice to meet you. My name's Rob. What's your name? Thanks for coming. Enjoy the catfish. My name's Rob. What's your name? My name's Rob. We do the political handshake. It doesn't work. I don't need a vote. This is what you should do. My name's Rob. What's your name? How do you like the catfish? May I sit and eat with you? You'll be the only person I talk to for 45 minutes. When I'm done, I will have your name, your phone number. I will have your address. Now imagine if we do that 40 times. If you do it and you do it and you do it and you do it and everybody sits with sinners and you have one job. I want you to find one family and connect with them. That's how you get Bible studies. So if you train this church how to do this, this is what the average congregation does in our school. We're going to hit 600 baptisms this year. And those 600 baptisms are a result of putting all this together in a manageable plan. And so we're going to put together a robust plan to deal with. Do you have anybody in the pews that come on Sundays that are not Christians? Anybody? We're going to put a plan together to reach them. We're going to talk about them every Sunday in a meeting. We're going to strategize how to get the gospel to them. We're going to focus on them like a laser beam. When I was at Willett, I walked into the elders meeting one Sunday and I said, brethren, we have 5 men in our pews that are not Christians. I would like us to put their names on a whiteboard, and I would like us to focus on them until we baptize them. And 12 months later, we baptized all 5. Why? Because we focused on them. They became our mission. And so we're going to put together a robust compassion card ministry, a robust visitation ministry, where visitors have teams selected. We're going to put together a robust door knocking ministry, a robust house-to-house ministry, new movers ministry, digital media, benevolence ministry. And when you put all that together, Ephesians 3, 9 and 10, unto this intent, that now unto principalities and powers in heavenly places, that it might be made known by the church the manifold wisdom of God, which is according to his eternal purpose in Christ Jesus, made known by the what? The church. It is the mission of the church of Christ to save souls. If that's not your mission, then this is not the church of Christ. We have to make sure that everything we do revolves around getting to sinners. Now, these last few points will take me 5 minutes. I want to teach you how to make a sinner's list. This is probably the most potent thing you can do to get contacts. And it's the simplest thing you can do. And it's step 1. And you're going to get more contacts than you know what to do with. You're going to get every person in the pew to fill this out. And we want to know who you know. We want to know who you want to reach. We want to know who you want to help save. We're going to populate a sinner's list. And so we don't hit targets we don't aim for. We need to populate a list. We're going to make a list. It's simple. And I'm going to talk more about that here in a few minutes. This is the North Jefferson Church of Christ. They have 17 baptisms in 8 months. This is why. See those bookmarks? That's where they got them. You know who those are? Those are church members. You know who was doing the Bible studies? Church members. You know who was baptizing them? Church members. The guy in the middle is an elder. They baptized so many people so quickly that about half a dozen churches in the area called them and said, how are you doing it? And they're now what we call a model church. Model churches train other churches. So it duplicates us because we cannot do this by ourselves. So now the North Jefferson Church is a model church, and they're going around the area and they're teaching other churches how to do what they do. I would love for Crossville to be a model church. I would love for this church, once you get it down here, go out there and teach every church of Christ you can how to do what you're doing. And brethren, one at a time, we'll find that churches of Christ can begin to grow again. And so we're going to get everybody participated, from the youngest to the oldest. Everyone involved in evangelism. No one's exempt. There are no sign-up lists. None. We will not ask anyone to sign up for jobs. The elders will appoint you. You're enlisted. We don't ask for volunteers. We're in a war setting. We're in a war footing. We don't ask, would you like to go out there? No. We're going to appoint. And so some of you will be put on the front line. Some of you will be logistics. Some of you will be support. Some of you will help with supplies. But you're going to do something. We're all going to be involved. And so elders are going to tap you on the shoulder and say, I need to speak to you tonight. I need to talk to you about what you can do to help us in this church evangelize. So number 8, we're going to prioritize. We're going to make evangelism the most important work of the church. Before the parking lot, before the leaky roof, before the bulb that's out, before the pews that need to be cleaned, before the walls that need painted, before reprimanding your preacher because he forgot to shake the hand of Sister Sue, before making sure that such and such is visited in the hospital. We're going to make sure that evangelism is the most important discussion in every meeting. We start with it, we pray about it, we talk about it, and then we publicize it. Your church cannot be successful if you hide your evangelism plans in the elder's office. And so once you make the plan, you got to publicize it from the pulpit and let everybody know. You can't carry this church on your back. And if the Church of Christ knows where you're trying to go, they'll help you get there. Are you guys ready to help your elders get there? Who's ready to help the elders get there? Look at that. They just need to know where you want to go. They need the elders to say, here's where we're trying to get, and here's the plan. And here's what you can do. So we're going to publicize the mission from the pulpit. So whether it's elders leading, and elders need to do that, preacher backing them up, and it's potent. Let's go to number 10. And lastly, we got to pray about it. We got to be praying about evangelism from our pulpits. I was very impressed with the prayers from this church for the lost. Keep praying, brethren. Don't ever stop praying for them. Not only pray for the brethren who've fallen away, pray for the sinners in this community you're trying to reach. Pray for those visitors. Pray you can reach them. Thank you for your attention tonight. We're grateful for your presence. And I think the ladies are just about done as well. And we're going to come back, I believe, for an invitation. All right? And thank you very much.